everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the ever-growing, always expanding, award-winning FANN Show. Thank you. I appreciate all of you for tuning in this evening. It is going to be an action-packed episode and a one-of-a-kind, as we have officially rebranded the show again for one night and one night only this time, and we're just adding an extra N. That's right. It is the FANN Show, or however long you hold the N when there's an extra N added. The FANN Show with two N's, because my special guest this evening is none other than the senior reporter for the San Francisco 49ers, the ultimate fan, Joe F.A.N. himself. He was gracious enough to loan me a few minutes of his time, 16 minutes and 25 seconds of his time. We did pre-record the interview. He is a rather busy man, but we talk about the 49ers, of course, why we're so excited for the 2018 season, Jimmy Garoppolo, Sherman, the backfield, Shanahan, Lynch, list goes on and on. So it's going to be a great segment. Very excited to share it with you all. Of course, we do have a weekend that was jam-packed with action as well, including all of the Week 2 preseason stuff. We can go over the scores and some of the highlights, yada, yada. Again, like I said, I don't get hyped for preseason. Preseason means that we're that much closer to the regular season, and that you should probably start your scouting, if you haven't already, for fantasy football, which, I'll be honest, I have not. I've never been one to scout for fantasy football. I just feel like there's too much luck in it. And yes, I do understand that with any gambling venture / sport, i.e. poker, blackjack, where you have control over it, but very little control. You follow, so in other words, you're playing poker, 5-card stud Texas Hold'em. You have control over the action as far as if you choose to bet, call, or fold. You have control over if you choose to raise as well. Swap your cards, do I want, if it's 5-card stud, give me 3, give me 2. No, I'm good, or give me a fresh new 5. And then from there, it's a matter of body language, trying to read people. So there is a skill beyond the skill of knowing, if the odds are sort of in your favor. Did you get dealt 4 of a kind, or do you have just a complete muck-up of cards, none of which are going to do you any good unless you can bluff your way all the way to somehow getting everyone around you to fold? So fantasy football, very similar. You draft players, and of course, you're tested with the depth of your respected bench, as in the real sport of football. But there is so much luck. I got David Johnson last year with several of my picks. I was lucky enough to be in the top whatever I needed to be to get Mr. Johnson, and it looked like I was going to be riding high and all the momentum going into the playoffs and the championship, and he gets hurt. Now, of course, he's one member of my team, but that's a pivotal member of your team. You spent your highest draft pick on Mr. Johnson, and now you've got to rethink almost your whole strategy. So maybe that's where the skill beyond the skill comes in, and I don't have very much of that. I have won fantasy leagues before. It's been a while since I've won my last one. But hosting the show and doing what I do here, my focus is more on to make sure that the people around me are having a good time. That's why the FANN Show sponsors a league that I am in. I love competing against my fellow members of FANN Nation. And the guys at Undisputed Belts are kind enough to throw in a little extra something for the winner. Of course, we love bragging rights, but who doesn't love a belt that they get to hoist above their head at the end when it's all said and done? Just ask Cleveland producer, whatever Rob calls himself these days, ask him. He knows all about it. So we are going to get into fantasy season. My drafts are coming up. I said I was going to do 3 leagues this year. I'm currently in 2. And the Fan Nation Fantasy Football League is stacked. We've got a comedian, a well-known one who was just on Conan recently. Chris Cope, he's going to be in Spokane this week. Buddy of mine, we actually get to meet face-to-face for the first time. It's going to be great. He's very excited about it. He actually, the first time he was on the show, he reached out to me, said, hey, I'd love to be a part of your show, and we've been friends ever since. Erin Coscarelli, one of the first ladies of football and nonsense, she, NFL Network's own, is going to be in the league, and so it's going to be a great time. We've got the returning champ, Rob, looking to defend his title and add another strap to his collection. How crazy would that be? So big shout out to Undisputed Belts for helping sponsor another great fantasy football league. It's our third time doing this. Still looking to do a celebrity fantasy football league at some time. If I could get Brad Williams, Steve Ranazisi, Mike Herrera, and some others to commit, I think we could have a really legit celebrity fantasy football league, but that might have to wait until season 4 of the FANN Show, which we will have our season premiere like we do each year. The show is going 24/7, 365, but we do have a season premiere and a season finale. It usually coincides with the date that the show was initially launched and created, which was September 10th, 2015. And then, of course, we do a season finale shortly after the Super Bowl. That's when we really shift gears and we start talking about everything, the other now divisions of the FANN Show. And so that's going to bring us to our headlines for today. Headlines, of course, brought to you by the good people at Dynamite Enterprises. And by good people, I mean Ethan, because he has done such an amazing job that I've been hit up by so many people recently as the shirts continue to make their way out into the general population. Good people of Fan Nation sporting that sweet swag. They're just like, these are so soft. It's the same reaction every time. Whether they get them in the mail and they open them, I get a text. These things are so soft. I'm wearing them all the time. I'm wearing mine right now. Or like today, I had a buddy of mine, Cameron Price, come over to pick his up that he ordered. He's like, you know what? Don't even ship it. I'll be in Spokane a couple of days. Let's do it then. So I handed it to him. First thing out of his mouth, oh man, this is so soft. So now everybody's just like, who's your t-shirt guy? Because I actually need some t-shirts. Well, he does much more than that. In fact, we clarified the last time that I was at Dynamite Enterprises and got another tour of his facility there. They're working on expanding into trophies. They've got table runners and banners, backdrops, shirts, hats, and yes, he can do underwear. We put that debate to bed. Finally, he does do underwear. Now, whether or not it's boxers, panties, or lingerie, you'd probably have to discuss that with him. But if there's a place that he can go to obtain what you want your logo or artwork on, he will do it, all right? If you can dream it, you can do it. He can put your artwork on it. Customize your world with Dynamite Enterprises. So yes, please, I encourage you, don't just take my word for it. Ask the good people of Fan Nation who have been lucky enough to snag one of these shirts. Is it really what they say it is? Is it that good? Yes, it's that good. I talk about it every episode here on the FANN Show. So hit up Ethan. That's Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com or visit dynamiteenterprises.com. Tell him you heard about him on the FANN Show and that you want to look into getting some shirts, hats, coasters, foam fingers, jackets, whatever, polos, he can do it. Dynamite Enterprises. And today's headlines, we've got a lot. So first and foremost, congratulations to producer Rob. It's one thing to lose a bet. It's another thing to lose a bet to someone that they're not going to let you. This won't be the last time you hear about it. They're not going to let you live it down, and that is Cleveland producer Rob, who beat me 4-1. Oh, it stung. If it was 3-2, that's one thing, but 4-1. Ugh. One pick away from just complete and utter embarrassment. And I do still maintain that the final score should really be 3.5 to 1.5, because the fact that the New Day won by disqualification, meaning that the Bludgeon Brothers retained their SmackDown Live tag team titles, which was really what we were picking. There was no talk about who's going to win the match. It's who's going to come out of this with the title. So I picked the Bludgeon Brothers to retain. He actually picked the New Day to win and win the titles. but it didn't matter anyway because of the different picks that we had. God, what else was it an embarrassment? Oh, he somehow picked Rollins to win over Ziggler, and that was just crazy talk, I thought. Now, I will give him this one. I picked Lesnar, he picked Reigns, and it could have been a miss for both of us, I guess, if they would have held true to what they teased us with, which we'll talk about in a second. He picked Carmella to retain. I picked Charlotte, and I don't know how people didn't think Charlotte was not going to come out of that with the title. And what was the other one? Oh, Owens and Strowman. I guess I was dumb enough to pick Kevin Owens for that one. But hey, it's neither here nor there. Congratulations, Rob. He gets to name my fantasy football team. All is right in the world again. So, but the bet between me and Mr. Ryan Hobson, the front office exec for the Green Bay Blizzard, good friend of mine. He always hooks me up every time I go to Green Bay. They are top of my list for the next tour. We put some swag up on the board. I said, if you win, I'll send you a swag bag, just like I'm going to send Logan. And he said, you know what? If you win, I'll send you some swag from Green Bay. So we tied. We did a points system. We both came out with 6 points even. And it looked like I was going to actually, I started out way behind, and then I tied, and then it looked like I was going to run away with it. But then that Roman and Lesnar pick again came back to bite me. But we tied, so we have both agreed to send each other the swag anyway. So great job there, Ryan. It was a lot of fun. I hope we can do it again. So let's go ahead and talk about SummerSlam, shall we? Ronda Rousey is your new WWE Raw Women's Champion, the first woman in history to have held both a UFC title and a WWE Women's title. Of course, you will recall that the only other person to do that was a man by the name of Brock Lesnar, and he was hoping to hold the title simultaneously going into his next UFC fight with Daniel Cormier. But it looks like that may not be the case after all. So Ronda Rousey, your new champion, made quick work of Alexa Bliss, has made quick work of her just meteoric rise in the WWE 3.5 matches later, and now she's your new champion. That half being that tag match that she debuted with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie at WrestleMania. I don't mind her being champion. I just hope that she puts in the work that the rest of the women's division has, because this is so WWE. This is so Vince McMahon to sidestep the talent that's there for not only all the televised events, not only all the pay-per-view events, but every live show, the ones that you don't see, the ones that have the dark matches, that lack the production, that people pay good hard money to go and still enjoy. Those guys that are on the road 300 days a year, they need to be appreciated and not sidestepped for celebrities anymore. So if she's really all in, if she's going to put in the work, that's absolutely fine. Go Ronda, lead the charge. This is a great look for WWE, as well as going into their all-women's pay-per-view Evolution coming up in October. Seth Rollins, your new Intercontinental Champion. What a match that was. It kicked off a 4-hour event that is SummerSlam, and it could have easily been the main event. People would have waited for that one instead of debating whether or not to leave early when it came to what the main event was. Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar for like the 17th time, going on 4-year saga now. Roman finally wins. They did a nice little teaser there by having Braun Strowman come out. Looked like it was going to be a triple threat, but he said, I'll be waiting for whoever wins this. Of course, nice bait and switch, Vince. I will applaud you on that. That was beautiful work by you to get the audience to stay and people to leave their TVs on. Strowman would get taken out by Lesnar. And then Roman would win clean, might I add you, meaning that there was no DQ, no shady stuff, no pulling stuff out from up the sleeves. And then quickly to the credits, and then end event. So now Strowman is chasing the champion. And Raw last night, God, it's a mess. It really is. SmackDown's still the better brand. So Braun wanted to cash in after he squashed Owens. Finn Balor came out as the Demon. That was probably the highlight of the night as far as non-match quality related stuff goes. The night before, NXT TakeOver, still probably the better event. NXT has pitched a shutout, a no-hitter against WWE premier events, because the only time they have NXT events is coinciding with one of WWE's big four: Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and of course WrestleMania. And I think there's another one in there somewhere, but it's like, you'd be better off pitting them against the pay-per-views that nobody really cares about, like Extreme Rules or Backlash or Fastlane or whatever. But if you want to bring on the NXT brand, which is head and shoulders above the rest as far as its in-ring action and its storytelling, my. The last man standing match between Ciampa and Gargano, that was fantastic. EC3 versus the Velveteen Dream. Please don't call up any of these guys from the roster to the main roster, because they will be ruined in short fashion. Anybody remember Asuka? Yeah, neither do I, because since she got to the main roster, all she's done is lost. So if we can keep them where they're valued and appreciated, which is on NXT, and there is nothing wrong with that, I'd be a happy camper. So that is your wrestling news. We're going to see what's going on as we move forward, because now that the title is on somebody that shows up each week, should create some new storylines on Raw. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, fantastic match. Didn't end the way that I wanted it to, but that's clearly the start of what's going to be a terrific rivalry. Breaking news today, John Ryan, who was released by the Seahawks yesterday, longest tenured Hawk, 10 long years, was the last guy to be coached by Mike Holmgren. I mean, yeah, that's a throwback, isn't it? He was released by the Seahawks. Rumor has it he asked for his release, but man, the last guy there, the true end of an era in Seattle, he was released, which was crazy. But then today, breaking news, he is signing with the Buffalo Bills. He can't get much further away from the Pacific Northwest than snowy Buffalo, so he'll probably feel right at home. He's trading rain for snow. So good luck, Ryan. I'm sure they'll take great care of you there. I can actually root for him, now that he's not a Seahawk. Adrian Peterson has found a new home. He's quickly becoming a journeyman running back. He has signed with the Redskins. Don't know the details of that particular contract. It's probably for 1 year. Bengals release Josh Gordon, you may have heard of him. He's rejoining the Browns, so Cleveland can rejoice once again. And A.J. McCarron out with a broken collarbone. Ouch, 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 ouch. The kid can't catch a break. It's tough, but hopefully he finds greener pastures and can, is it resurrect the career at this point? Just have a career? I don't know. And then we will talk about week 2 preseason here in a little bit. But BattleBots, here to wrap up headlines. We had some great matchups this last Friday. New video content going up with Leanne Cushing of Valkyrie. You guys are loving that interview. One of the most honest interviews and segments I've ever done in my life. Over 2,000, or I think 10,000 views, has reached more than 60,000 people. So thank you, Fan Nation, for showing the love. You guys can check out all the Fan Show's video content either on the Facebook page, facebook.com/FanShowOfficial, or guess what? Yeah, in case you didn't know, and you should by now, the Fan Show has a YouTube channel. You can listen to all the episodes on there as well, but it's the home base for the video content than the Fan Show does. This was the third interview that I've been able to finally post from my time down in LA for the BattleBots tapings. The first one was Andrea Suarez. She is the captain of Witch Doctor, so that's up on the YouTube page. And then Ed Robinson of Sharko, that's up there. And now Leanne. We've got plenty more content where this stuff came from, including some video bits from your favorites out there in the world of robot fighting time. So you guys are going to want to subscribe. You're going to want to check those out, because they're just going to keep coming. This is the time to be a BattleBots fan and to be a fan of the Fan Show. So we had Endgame versus Son of Waiachi. What a match that was. That was Son of Waiachi comes out with the victory on that after a huge blow. Man, you didn't know who was knocked out after that. Bite Force and Bombshell. Bombshell can't catch a break, but Bite Force looks like he is charging head first into the championship because he is 4-0, the only bot on the roster. So his 4 fights are done. It looks like if he's not the number 1 seed, I don't know how, but he's got to be top 3 at the very least. Gigabyte got the best of Brutus. And then Valkyrie, after getting a little embarrassed because their weapon broke due to Lockjaw in the Desperado tournament, they bounce right back. They now have a winning record again after a convincing defeat of Red Devil. This was something to watch as they dismantled Red Devil. And then finally a rematch for the ages, Blacksmith and Minotaur. Fight that went the distance. Minotaur gets the win against Blacksmith. But man, it was definitely a worthy fight. So we will wait and see what this week's card has in store for us. Seems like they're getting better and better as we make that final push to the 16 seed tournament. Who's in? Well, Lockjaw is. At what seed? We don't know. And then we're going to see who rounds out the other 15 spots. Will your favorite bot make it? Would love to hear from you. Don't forget, Monday, we have the NAL Championship game, the Columbus Lions and the Carolina Cobras. And I will be there. I fly out Saturday. Media day is Sunday. The game is Monday. Monday Night Football coming to you from Greensboro before the regularly scheduled football starts back up again. So might as well, 'tis the season. If it walks, talks, and acts like it, might as well enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying some indoor or arena football. So as far as your week 2 recap, we had Baltimore and Indy last night. That final 20-19 in favor of the Ravens. New England versus Philly. That's for Super Bowl 52 as New England 37, the Eagles 20 in Foxborough. Jets fall short to the Redskins 15-13. Pittsburgh and Green Bay in a shootout 51-34 in favor of the Pack. Kansas City over Atlanta 28-14. New York, the football Giants over Detroit 30-17. Carolina over Miami in Carolina 27-20. Buffalo beats Cleveland. So unfortunately, Cleveland will not make a repeat of going 4-0 in the preseason, which means they may actually have a chance at winning a game this season. 19-17 is your final from Cleveland. And Arizona over New Orleans 20-15. Jacksonville over Minnesota 14-10. LA beating Oakland in LA. The Rams, mind you, not the team that nobody cares about. And that was 19-15. Cincinnati over Dallas 21-13. Tampa Bay over Tennessee 30-14. I told you Tampa Bay is probably going to go undefeated in the preseason. They're 2-0 now and probably miss the playoffs. And I think I said Cincinnati would do that as well. And same with, the Cardinals? I don't know. I'll have to listen back to the episode that I said that on because I do remember saying Tampa Bay would be one of them. So we'll see. They're 2-0 right now. 2 more games left. Houston over San Francisco, but that makes me breathe a huge sigh of relief because it's never good for teams to go undefeated in the preseason. That's worse than the Madden curse, really. 16-13 your final there, but Jimmy G looked phenomenal. We are going to talk to Mr. Joe F.A.N. about that coming up in a few minutes. And then Chicago over Denver, 24-23. And finally, the Chargers over the Seahawks, 24-14. Seattle is 0-2 on preseason. I don't know what that means for their regular season hopes, but I'm not sure how that works. I know if you go undefeated, it's bad news, but if you don't win a game, what does that mean? I don't know. I'll have to check on that one. So I did, let's see, I cover everything. Yep. Pretty much covered everything. So with that, now that we are at the top of the hour and about midway through the show, just over the midway point, as we've been doing about 45, 50 minutes lately, we can do our interview with Mr. Joe F.A.N. I did want to mention to you guys, though, that if you're in the Spokane area or just the Pacific Northwest, if you happen to come this direction, you guys need to check out Indy's Barbershop, quality haircuts and hot towel shaves. Owner Jason Krause, the owner and one of the barbers, super nice guy, loves his fantasy football. In fact, I stopped by there today, and he's just like, what fantasy advice you got for me? I was like, how much time you got to talk? What are we talking? PPR? Dynasty? Like what? And so we're going to be talking a little bit more. But I have gone in there for a cut and a shave, and it was a great experience. it's a very comfortable setting. You don't feel like it's a ritzy joint. It's just a couple of down-to-earth guys that like to cut hair. And they're the real deal. I wouldn't talk about them on the show unless I really meant that. You guys know how I work here. If I believe in a product or a person or a business, I will talk about you on the show, and that's what I'm doing right now. So Indies, located at 711 North Monroe Street in Spokane, Washington. I like them so much that we had a little conversation. If you guys decide to go in and get a haircut and a shave, if you say, I heard about you on the FANN Show, they are going to give you 15% off. I don't know what they'll do if you say that while wearing a FANN Show shirt, but who knows? The world could explode and everything could cease to exist as we know it. But the point is that if you're looking for a quality cut and shave, if you like to have just a good hometown feel and no pressure, just relax, have a drink, and by a drink, I mean not water in the fridge. They have beer there. They have a pool table. It's a great setting, great environment. If I had more money, I'd go in there all the time. But hey, money shouldn't be a problem, because if you go in and say, I heard about you on the FANN Show, they're going to cut you a 15% discount, and that could be the difference between you getting a quality cut and a shave as opposed to one that you might get at a not so great quality place. What substitute quality for screaming kids or impatient people, grumpy grandmas, go and check out Indy's Barber, okay? 711 North Monroe Street. Tell them the FANN Show sent you. I heard about you on the FANN Show. 15% off, just like that, all right? I hope that half the universe didn't just disappear when I did that. So now we are going to go to commercial break. When I come back, Joe F.A.N. of the San Francisco 49ers. We talk all things 49ers, and it felt so good. We're so excited. You'll hear about it right after this. You're listening to The FANN Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The FANN Show!
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com, or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now is the reason that the FANN Show is officially renamed for one time only. It got an extra N. Joe F.A.N. of the San Francisco 49ers, senior reporter for the team, is joining me now. Joe, welcome to the program. How you doing?
Appreciate you having me. Happy to be here. Doing well, man. Nice to be home, back in my own bed for a few days before we take off for Indianapolis on Thursday.
Yeah, you said that Houston was hot, and I'd trade hot for the lack of air quality we have up in Spokane right now. So I think you got the better end of the deal for the weekend.
Yeah, it's wild up there in the old Northwest. I've heard from my family up there. It's pretty crazy. So definitely a big shout out and prayers for those first responders fighting all the fires really all over the West Coast.
Yeah, it seems like it's a never-ending thing sometimes up here once August hits, but we get through it, and we just hope that the next year isn't so bad. But this is the worst one in a couple, so we've, I guess, caught a few breaks recently. But anyway, we're here to talk about 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo and all the things that we can get excited about for 2018. There have been 2 preseason games. The first one against Dallas. Now, that was a win, but Jimmy G... they had to punt. And then, of course, Houston, that was a loss. But a lot of things looked like they went well for Jimmy G. And how long have you been covering the Niners for?
This is my 4th season.
4th season. So this, it can only get better for you, right?
Yeah, it's gone from, bad to worse. and then to getting a little bit better and seeing a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel last year in December with that 5-game winning streak to close the season.
So in your experience then, seeing this team at its worst, kind of when you got on board, I mean, what makes you feel more confident about this team, this roster, this era really with Shanahan and Lynch, and what have you seen that has backed up that feeling?
Yeah, I just think in general, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch bring this sense of credibility to the 49ers. I think in general, they're two guys that you want to get behind, and the players are completely bought into what their vision is. You could see it. You could feel it last year. Despite a 9-game losing streak to start the season, guys are still bought in and moving forward. And that really showed itself in a celebration following that win against the New York Giants in Week 10 last year. I mean, guys are just so thrilled with their hard work. Finally, now they're experiencing some fruits from that. So I think in general it's just a vibe. Culture is a word that's commonly overused, but you can't go anywhere without it. If you guys don't get along, if guys aren't bought in, if egos are getting in the way of the team, you're just not going to go anywhere, right? And so I think the 49ers have built the foundation of a really strong culture, and now there's some more expectations that'll be tested here in 2018, but certainly very promising for everybody going into the new year.
As media, when I talk to players, and I'm sure for you it's very similar, that you can tell sometimes when the response that you're getting is almost automated, sort of like it's a prepared response for a question like that. And then you can tell when you're getting genuine honesty and emotion. When you talk to some of these players and they talk about all the positives and the things that they're looking forward to in the upcoming season, have you felt like you're getting more genuine reaction out of them, like they truly believe in who they're playing for and what they're playing for?
Yeah, I think in general, you have a guy like Joe Staley. I mean, Joe Staley's not one to blow smoke. I mean, he's not one to, say things because he feels like he has to. And he said last year, going into the first year of Kyle Shanahan being the head coach, he said, I'm playing football again, and that's changed my outlook on maybe the end of my career and how much longer I want to play for. That was before he even played a game for Kyle Shanahan, so that's really impressive. And then, going into this year, he said, this is the best locker room he's ever been a part of. And granted, he was a part of all 3 teams that went to an NFC Championship game and one that went to a Super Bowl and arguably should have won a Super Bowl, right? So I think you take that for I think just Joe Staley's word in general has so much value. And when a guy like that says something to that degree, I think it makes you think like, man, the 49ers might have something special here.
Yeah, I completely agree, and you're right about Joe. Joe's a guy that I've been trying to get on the show for probably the last 2 years now because he does the Joe Show, and I feel like he'd be very entertaining, but hearing how you speak of him and his honesty makes me want him on the show that much more. You were there for what I imagine would have probably been one of the first people to hear about the hiring of of John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. A lot of criticism when the Lynch hiring happened because of his lack of experience. And my reaction was surprise, but I was also optimistic because I was like, if he's willing to put in the work and do the job like he did as a player, like there's zero expectation for him right now. All he can do is do well if he surrounds himself with the right people, and I feel like that's what he's done. What was your initial reaction when you heard that they were bringing in Lynch in such a prominent role?
Certainly shock and surprise. I mean, a guy's name that wasn't on anybody's radar. You had no idea. I mean, my first thought was, is there a second John Lynch I don't know about, or is it the John Lynch who's going to be the general manager of the 49ers? Then obviously, it is the same guy, potential Hall of Fame safety, former broadcaster with Fox, and so I think in general, especially in sports, when you surprise people or catch people off guard or seem like you're coming out of left field, the response is usually negative. And so I think that's just kind of the way you have to approach looking at the reaction, looking at the response. But I think it didn't take long for people to buy in on what John Lynch was selling. I think his approach of, listen, I trust my football acumen up there with anybody else, but I also know what I don't know. And his ego wasn't too big to bring in a guy like Adam Peters and Martin Mayhew right off the bat to surround himself with his brain trust, who does have experience in NFL front offices and can help him out and make tough decisions. And so far, that trio has worked very well together so far.
Now, this is a team that for a while there had one of the more dominant defenses in the league, and you had to when you played teams like, Seattle, and even for a period of time there, Arizona, because the West was such a tough conference. But, Bowman left last year, and that was a tough pill for me to swallow because he was kind of one of the last pieces from that era. But, 49ers have always been known for their offense. They had Frank Gore, which changed the dynamic, changed sort of the identity there for a long time. And so now we have Shanahan, who clearly has his own blueprint for what he wants his offense to be. But when they got rid of Hyde, I was a little surprised there because I felt like he was a great running back, but the more people that I talked to, the more that we understand he didn't maybe fit Shanahan's scheme. So now we have Alfred Morris, we have Jerick McKinnon, Matt Breida. Like, do you feel like there's one that stands out above the rest, or is this going to be kind of a tandem, a three-headed monster back with Shanahan?
I don't know about Alfred Morris yet. I think he still has to make the roster, and I think he certainly has a good chance to do so. But for me, it's the tandem between Matt Breida and Jerick McKinnon, given their health, will be the focal point of the running game. And not just that, but both of them very accomplished pass catchers as well. Jerick McKinnon especially so. And he obviously had a skill set that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch targeted in free agency, marked as their guy, and said, we have to have him. Well, now that they've got him, and we're really not going to know how they plan on using him until the regular season. Obviously, that's the case given his injury, but even until then, they were never going to show what their plan is with Jerick McKinnon during the preseason. So I think the potential is there for him to have a very big year. He's in a role that he's never been in before. So the 49ers are banking on his athletic profile, are banking on the kind of person he is, the work ethic, all of that, to really flourish into the player they envision. But, I imagine, it's going to be him. He'll be the starter, no question. And then Matt Breida will be a focal point as well.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Matt Breida last year. I know some people that have worked with him on the college level. They say he's a tremendous running back and a real hard worker, which is what you need back there during this kind of, you're building from a foundation. You laid the foundation last year, now you're building. So now it's time to talk about the man of the hour, of course, Jimmy Garoppolo, probably one of the biggest surprises in sports, really, ever, acquiring him out of nowhere, and it seemed like it was going to be somebody else's show to run, but that man now resides in Minnesota as a Viking. Your thoughts when you found out they were getting Jimmy G, and what has he done to really sell you on being the guy for San Francisco since then?
Man, where do you start? I mean, my reaction was, again, kind of shock. I mean, no way is this actually going down. I mean, it makes sense once you digest it, but at first, why are the 49ers, or why are the Patriots even open to trading him? And then, but obviously it all goes down, and since day one, just incredibly impressive. He goes into that Chicago game, and the 49ers weren't able to get in the red zone or get in the end zone, but with 5 minutes left, they're down 2 points, and they got to march the whole field. And I was up in the press box in Chicago at Soldier Field. I'm like, I don't know why, but I just have this feeling that he's going to get it done. And sure enough, he did. Manages the clock the whole way. Robbie Gould kicks a game-winning field goal, and that started a run of 5 straight wins to close out the season. And so he's been comprehensively impressive. I think his approach, the things he says, his leadership style, he's really taken the reins of the 49ers offense. His teammates love him, the coaches love him. All the way around. Has just been really, really good. So, I think obviously the sky's the limit for him. There are going to be some growing pains. But, all things point to him having a big year.
Yeah, and I would love to see him continue his success from last year. Of course, everyone has to lose eventually. When will that happen this year? But, it's to see him go out there and rattle off 5 in a row, knowing that, sometimes, yes, it was the last-minute field goal by Robbie Gould, or the defense had to make a stand and prevent points from being put up on the board. But I was a guest on a show, on a podcast a few weeks ago, and I said, this is kind of a different feeling for me, because when it comes to the 2018 49ers, if they are down by 6 with 2 minutes left, I have all the confidence in the world of them going and winning it. But if they're up 6 and the defense is out on that field, that's where it gets a little shaky, and that's been kind of what I've seen from preseason so far. But I think with a guy like Jimmy G now at the helm, for players, especially on the offense, you have to believe the hype, and you have to believe the guy that's out there making it happen. And one thing that really sold me on him was it just looks like he's constantly calculating when he's in the pocket. Like, he's trying to make the smart decision, the decision that it's like, I don't want the 40-yard highlight reel play. I want the play that gets us the first down and keeps the ball moving. Is that kind of the impression that you've gotten, and maybe the feeling around the locker room?
I don't know if that's the specific impression. I think it's just the guy that makes the right decision most of the time. Whether that's taking the deep shot like you saw, on 3rd and long, the first drive of the game, he hits Marquise Goodwin for 40 yards, or finding a guy right at the sticks. I don't think it's necessarily his approach that I'm not looking for that big highlight reel play, but he's not going to carelessly take those shots when the opportunity or the look or the coverage isn't right. So I think it just comes down to his decision-making skills that so far, again, have been really impressive.
Yeah, and that's what my feeling is too. Of course, I'm an opportunistic fan. I think the sky's the limit, but a lot of people are, they're hoping for playoffs in Super Bowl 2018. I put my money on 2019 just because I would like to see a steady, consistent show of progress and it getting better and, really believing and building into this product. Your thoughts on 2018? Where do you see this team going? Do you have a final record picked, and do they claim a playoff spot?
Yeah, I think it's tough because the margin is so small in the NFL, right? So if you're looking at a team that's, going to be 8-8, right? You look back and there's definitely going to be games where you say, man, we should have been 10-6.
Yep.
Or, the team's going to look back and be like, man, we were kind of lucky to be 8-8. Even we could have dropped a couple that we were lucky to win. It could have been easily 6-10. So the needle could move so far, or so, either way, with just a couple of plays here and there, right? I mean, just look at last year, 5 straight losses by 3 points or less. So I think it's tough to put a record on this team. I think certainly in the 8-8 range. And, my expectation outside of record is, and this is kind of what I've been saying, not to avoid the question, but just because I think it's so hard to put a win total on it, is, I expect week 17 going down to Los Angeles and they're still in the playoff hunt. No matter how small the chance is, you're not eliminated from playoff contention until the season is over. And so that is my expectation.
Yeah, and that's kind of the expectation I've placed on it also. I think that they're always going to be in the hunt up until they're not anymore. I don't think it's a mathematically eliminated type of scenario for the 2018 Niners, but I do feel like if they miss it, they're going to look back at a game specifically and say that game was probably the one that did it, either positive or negative. And I look at the schedule and I hate to think what game that could be, but I think it's also that anticipation, that excitement that, you're looking at it, not dreading it anymore, right? The schedule, you're actually excited for what's to come with the 49ers.
Yeah, certainly. And you have a nice litmus test right off the bat going on the road against, one of the best teams and maybe the odds-on favorite to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC and the Minnesota Vikings with all the talent they have on offense, adding Kirk Cousins, best defense in the league last year. So certainly I think, that's a game you look at and think, man, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves on this day, right? And that's the mindset going in. And as fans look, fans should look on this, very much the same way. But for me, it's all about staying above water in those first 8 games. Play 5 of your first 8 on the road. It's an incredibly daunting slate. And I think the 49ers have certainly the personnel to do so, but it won't be easy. And if you're looking through 8 games and you're sitting at 4-4, then maybe you have a chance to make a run in the second half.
Yeah, I've dubbed the opening game of the season against the Vikings the Who Laughs Last Bowl, kind of, because obviously Minnesota went and got Cousins, which we all thought he was going to come to San Francisco, but San Francisco got Jimmy G, and so now we have 2 teams with 2 franchise quarterbacks that are both looking to continue off of their 2017 momentum, although very different in that respect. But Joe, I got to thank you so much for taking the time to talk some Niners. Robert Alberino invited me down for the December 16th game against the Seahawks. So I will hopefully maybe have a chance to run into you, shake your hand then, but I'm also going to be applying for some credentials all season long. So who knows, maybe sooner or later I'll see you down there at Levi's.
Awesome. Love it, man. And anytime you make it down, give me a shout and we'll link up for sure.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much again for talking some Niners. I always love doing that on the show. This is the FANN Show with 2 N's. Joe FANN of 49ers Studios. Thank you so much. You have a great rest of your day and, of course, great season. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate you, man. Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
All right. You have a good one. All right. Once again, that was Joe F.A.N, senior reporter of the San Francisco 49ers. A job I honestly wouldn't mind having. I feel like between that and color commentary would really, for a team, would be just an absolute joy, just to be able to have your voice associated with a team and those moments and things like that, to get to know the players in the way that he does. I'm still gunning for Joe Staley, Matt Breida. I mean, whoever wants to come on the show from the 49ers, they are welcome to be on the show. My rule is, because I've never had an active NFL player. I've had former NFL players, Al Wilson, Marvin Jones. They have been so gracious as to be special guests on the show. We talked some football, reminisced a little bit, their involvement in the Indoor Football League, which is sort of how those relationships have sparked and grown. But there's been some maybe opportunities, right? A maybe opportunity is where if you went down this path, then it could very likely happen, and there's been some of that with Seahawks. John Ryan, of course, his wife, comedian Sarah Colonna, has performed at the Spokane Comedy Club a couple of times in the time that I've done this, and she was all for being on the show last year, but I was out of town. It was one of those indoor trips that I made, and I was like, damn, I'm just going to miss you. So she was coming back, but wouldn't you know it, I was out of town again. But she kept saying, I'd love to, obviously, you could have us both on the show, me and my husband, John Ryan. And the idea of having an active NFL player was great. But being a 49ers fan, having a Seahawk on before I've ever had any other player on, it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. So I want to hurry up and get a 49er active roster member on the show, so that then I can open it up to any team, any player, whoever wants to be on the show can be. But it's that first one's got to be a Niner, doesn't it? Like, that's, you have your own little rules and regulations and stuff like that, guidelines. I don't know. It may seem silly to you, but it's a real deal. So we'll open it up. Joe Staley, I would love to have him on. If he would so much as just tweet back, yeah, it'll be 1,000 retweets for me to be on your show. I could do it. No problem. 10,000? I can do it. 1 million? Hell, why not? But, I want them to acknowledge, and then we can get that ball rolling. So those listening, Fan Nation, remember, if you know somebody that knows somebody, I'd like to know them. That way we can get this thing moving. We can get some quality guests for the NFL season and keep things rolling. We're going to have fantasy football talk, don't you worry. I'm not great at giving fantasy football advice. I'm not even that great at playing it, but I hold my own, and we will talk about that. Of course, the site's going to relaunch on its 4-year anniversary, and that will be September 10th, and we'll have a home for all 6 divisions. That's right, 6 now, since the main logo, the flagship, the sports division with the football on the logo, is the primary one. It is technically a division now. And then, of course, robotics. Robotics might get, it's not going to get a new logo, but I was thinking about it because the Good Guys car show was in Spokane. I was like, oh, that'd be fun to cover. I could put that under the well, crap, when do I put that under? So I think robotics might be better suited if it was called mechanics or mechanical, something along those lines. But you get the point, machinery, engines, stuff like that. Because if I ever did a Supercross or something, a Raceway or whatever, or Monster Energy, Rockstar Energy type of thing, there would need to be a home for that. And I'm not sure which division that would fall under. Probably sport, but if you tweak robotics just a bit, it might be better suited under mechanical, something to discuss. But anyway, we've got plenty of stuff for wrestling. Music division, man, that division's been so quiet. Pop culture and entertainment, of course, we had the Mark Morris comedy special last night, the monthly one that I do with him. So the first special, the first audio special under a different banner is now up for your listening pleasure. It'll be up all week long. And then we'll be moving on to the next. Andrew Rivers, featured comedian, the headliner from last night. Hilarious guy. And then, of course, local comics Folger Emerson and Philip Kopczynski rejoined the show, and they were always fun to have on. So go ahead and go check that out. It's the one that looks completely different from all the rest. Speaking of completely different from all the rest, tomorrow night, it is Wednesday. It will be our weekly BattleBots special. I believe we have not one but two special guests lined up, two guests that you will not want to miss. So there's a little teaser for you. Watch for the promo photo that I do every day now as far as tonight on the FANN Show. And make sure that you schedule time to either tune in or that you're subscribed to either Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, or iHeartRadio so that if you can't listen live, you get it immediately following the live broadcast and you can listen at your leisure. But that's going to be the best way to stay in touch, to keep up with all things happening in Fan Nation, and then make sure that you're following us on social media so that you see the promotional photos and things that we're trying to promote as far as upcoming guests, events, and things like that. And that's Twitter, Instagram, and of course Facebook. The website wouldn't go there just yet. It's under construction. We're going to relaunch, but it'll be bigger and better than ever. And then, of course, if you'd like to write or contribute to the FANN Show, please hit me up, Richard@thefanshow.com, or you can hit me up on any form of social media. Make sure to, if you can't send me an IM or a DM on Twitter because we aren't following each other, just at me, and we'll get it going. But Facebook, you'll see 95% response rate within a few minutes. I'm always on the Facebook, and then Instagram, you can slide into my DMs as well, as Chiseled Adonis would say. So tune in tomorrow night, same FANN Show time, same FANN Show place at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, Spreaker.com/user/thefanshow or thefanshow.com. The live tab is still up and running, so you can listen live there. But if you tune in through Spreaker, there's this lovely chat feature. You can join in on the conversation. Whatever we're talking about, go ahead and share your thoughts. If you're a troll, though, you're going to be ignored. So try not to troll, because trolls are just... they're like mosquitoes, right? They just buzz. They don't serve really a purpose in life except to be eaten by birds and other wildlife. So if that's what you want to be, if that's your goal in life, then I guess do you. But don't do it on my time. This has been the FANN Show. I thank you all for listening. So until next time, best of luck to you and yours. Big thanks to Indy's Barbershop. Remember, walk in, say, I heard about you on the FANN Show, and you'll get 15% off your next cut and shave. Shout out Undisputed Belts for being my guys. I sent them the images yesterday. They got back with a proof today. That thing has been made and shipped. We've got a 1 of 1, the first ever FANN Show Player of the Game belt for the National Arena League Championship. Thank you guys, Undisputed Belts. They are the best in the biz. So best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's blood? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the FANN Show.